Hey, what's up, beat hackers? I realised I had these two things right here in my room and I hadn't actually done a review on them yet. So in this week's video, I'm going to review these two DJ decks for you. Let's do it. Okay guys, so in this week's video we're talking about the Numark Mixtrack Platinum FX and the Mixtrack Pro FX. Okay, so first thing I want to cover is what the difference is between these two DJ decks, because they look very, very similar and they are basically completely identical. The main difference between the two are on the jog wheel here you'll see there's a display on the Platinum FX where it gives you things like BPM, which is the main thing you're going to be looking at, key of the track, and it also has this kind of like little white line which signifies how close you are to the end of the track, so you can kind of keep your eye on how long you've got left before you have to mix into the next track. That's the big difference. That's like the main difference. The other difference is this deck here has got an ability to have 4 decks. Okay, so as you can see, it is just 2 decks. What it means when it says it's got the ability to have 4 is you can hit this button down here and it will say this is deck 1 and this is deck 2. You hit that button down there and suddenly that goes to deck 3, and hit that button down there and it goes to deck 4, which basically means kind of think like there's these 2 decks and then behind them are 2 other decks, and you just have to remember which deck you're on, whether you're on 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And because of that, if you're ever so slightly confused by that concept, I get confused by that concept and very, very rarely will do 4 deck mixing on a 2 deck controller, because I just find it confusing and it's like, oh no, which one am I on? Because you've got to think, all the effects all of a sudden control the one that you're on and blah blah blah. It's kind of confusing, right? So here's my conclusion on the differences between the two. I am so used to using controllers that don't have any information on them that actually when I've got information on them, it's an effort for me to make sure I look at these rather than looking at Serato, because I'm so used to going like, okay, I'm going to do the BPM and I look across at my laptop like this because I'm checking the BPM. So I'm used to not having information there. Now, the next thing I want to say, which I should have said at the beginning, is this deck here is $199. This one is $250, like $249. So it's $50 difference for those 2 main things, the display here and the 4 deck functionality. I just don't really use the 4 deck functionality. I imagine you probably won't, and even if you do, you'll probably use it like 3% of the time. And as for the display, it's really cool. Like if this is your first deck and you're not used to staring at Serato for things like BPM, then actually this is kind of cool, because I'm a massive fan of not staring at the computer screen and staring more at the DJ decks. A lot of the stuff I teach is to try and drag people away from staring at the screen back to staring at their DJ deck. So this is a massive help that will help you out with that. However, because I'm so used to not using it, I was finding myself not using it much and just going back to my old ways. I'm rambling now. So my conclusion on this is, do you necessarily have to get this one? No, you can quite easily just have this one here because they are literally identical. But if you got the money, you want to spend an extra $50 to have this display, it's a cool display, and you know, you can get it if you want. So there's my thoughts on that. Next thing I wanted to say as well is, in general, just want to give like a sweeping statement here. These are very well built. They feel sturdy. They feel like they're not going to break anytime soon. All the knobs and switches have got, and this is a weird thing to say, but a good weight to them, okay? You know, sometimes if you've got a tempo slider and it's like really wobbly, and it's like, oh no, you know, like if you've got shaky hands, and a lot of these controllers have small tempo sliders, these ones don't. I'm going to come back to that in a second. If it's really loose, it's kind of annoying. This has got a real like weight to it, which is really nice. Even the wheel itself has got, it's not got a weight to it, but it's not really loose. That's nice as well. All of the buttons and switches and knobs feel really nice and sturdy and have a good weight. And the performance pads down here, really, like, they don't have a click to them. So when you push them in, there's no click, right? Which means you can kind of give them a bit of a hammer, like you'd hammer something like that. They feel good. It just feels really nice, really solid. Nothing's going to break anytime soon. Everything's got a good weight to it. So that's just general stuff. Now, for the rest of this video, I'm actually just going to put one of these down and just talk about one, because I've told you the main differences between the two. Let's do that now. Okay guys, put the second deck away. We're now in the view that you're used to, so here we go, let's get into it. So, in this next section now, I'm not going to run you through every single feature. I'm going to assume that you know what most of these features do, like hot cues and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just going to run you through like what's different about these decks to other decks, and what I like about them, and stuff like that. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about, I absolutely love the fact they've got this full tempo slider here. The tempo slider is something that you're just constantly using throughout a DJ set, and sometimes it's annoying when entry-level DJ controllers have like these tiny, teeny, weeny little things, and they're so delicate, and it's like, when you just want to get that freaking BPM match properly, and you've got these tiny little wobbly things, it's so annoying. This is really big and nice, and it's just, they're spot on. So that's a really cool feature which I love about these DJ decks. They've also got this other thing down here which is pitch bend, right? Which is really interesting. As you know, when you've got a deck loaded in, say you're trying to beat match and the one is slightly out, you'd often use the outer bit of your jog wheel to help it catch up. As you know, if you put your finger on the top, it will stop the track dead. That's how you can do a scratch. If you touch the side, it just kind of moves forward. I'm going into explaining mode here, so I'm going to try and get back to the review. So, what happens is, you can skim forward or back with the jog wheel. You can actually hear it moving the track like that. Well, the pitch bend does the same thing, which is unusual. You can press plus. Oh, no, do this one. It jogs it forward and then kind of accelerates the speed, and then same if you click negative, right? So that's an interesting feature I don't think I've seen on any of the other decks I've used before, which is kind of cool. I didn't find myself using it. I went back to the default. However, there's something, you could kind of use this in a bit of a performance way, like say a drop's coming up, you could potentially hit the minus button to slow it down just before the drop. Say like a little bit like this.
Ready for this?
Potentially you could use it like that, just throwing that idea out there. So there's that. Now the other thing these two pitch buttons do down here is you can hit shift and it will change the pitch bend range. It's not even a pitch bend, it's just the pitch range. In other words, what I'm saying is, if you go all the way to the top here and all the way to the bottom, it goes up 8%. So the speed of the track will go up or down 8%. But if you're trying to beat match bigger ranges, you want to be able to go higher percentages. So you can hit shift and you can bump that up, if you look at the screen there, to 16 to 50, which is a really cool feature, which again I use all the time. Same thing with key lock, you can switch just on or off. Key lock basically means when you're speeding a track up or down, the pitch will stay the same, right? So if you've got my voice in there going ah and pitched up or down, it would get quicker, but it would still sound like ah. If you get key lock off, it won't keep it the same key, so my voice will go ah. Let me give you a brief example of this, because I'm talking a load of rubbish here, aren't I? I'm going to put it up to the highest, which is 50%, and I'm going to turn key lock off. Let's have a listen. Stop, you get the idea. Cool, so there's that. So that's that. Really like that, like those little features, love the fact that you've got easy access to them. Next quick thing for you is this EQ here is like, it cuts the sound off dead. For example, if I press play now and I slow, if I turn all these down to the smallest setting, turn them all the way to the left, basically, it will mute the sound completely. A lot of EQs don't do this. You can try it on a couple of other decks. You can turn all the EQs all the way down and it's still like seeping a bit of sound. I like the fact that these just cut the sound off dead. Gone. Which means that if you want to cut the bass, you're well and truly cutting all the bass, or you're well and truly cutting all the highs. It leads for a cleaner sound. It's a nice feature. All decks should do it, really. So another feature I really like there. Just quickly talk about these hot cues down here. You got your regular stuff. Cue points. We all know what cue points are. You can set regular, many cue points as you want throughout a track. Let me put a track in here just so stuff happens when I touch stuff. So you can put cue points. You can set cue points at different points you want. They're basically, you know, there forever. Auto loop. Same thing as this auto loop down here. Turn the loop on, it will create a loop on the track like this. You can make the track, the loop half speed or quarter speed, or, you know, longer than that or whatever. Now auto loop does the same. If you hold it down, it will kind of increase the length of the loop as you go across those up there. You know, this is regular stuff here. Samples, same thing, you can load samples in and use them. Fader cut, now this is the bit that I wanted to tell you was slightly different. Fader cut essentially like drops and brings the volume up. It's a bit like doing that kind of James Hype thing where you do this constantly, but I'm not convinced. It sounds great. Have a listen, okay? And as per usual, you go up, it speeds up the amount it's doing it. You'd never really use that, but from the vibe I get, it's like more of a scratch thing. You know when you see people kind of scratching and they're doing this kind of stuff? I'm not very good scratching myself, but if you want to kind of say we had a bit of a scratch going on here, if you were doing a scratch, you could hold this down and it kind of creates a bit more of a stuttery effect on the scratch. See what I'm talking about? That's when you maybe would use it, but my guess is you're probably never going to use that function. So I'm not a fan of that. That's right. We come to the final thing, which is my absolute favorite thing about these DJ decks, is the effects section here. I love these little paddle things here. Okay, so this is how it works. You're playing a song, you select any effect you want here. So there's high pass, low pass, flanger, echo, reverb, phaser. Pretty standard effects that you would use quite a lot. You select whatever you want. Unfortunately, you can't select two at once, which would be cool, but you can select one. And then you can either just flick it on, so you hold it down and it stays on for as long as you hold it, or you flick it up and it leaves the effect on. Love this. This is so cool. Honestly, this is so wicked. And I just like having like effects right there. Like so many of the controllers, it's like I have to memorize when I go to effects on Serato over here and which effects I've got on which controller, and then, you know, all that kind of stuff. Right here, it's like it was so intuitive. If you go and check out my DJ set I did on these exact decks, it was a Melbourne bounce set, you'll see me using these, and it's so much fun just to literally write. You know, you're going through and then you can just flick between different effects if you want and leave it on, or you just hold it down for as long as you want. So if you kind of like, there's a build coming up, let's go back, let's go and do it. And it's like, oh, I want to just flick this effect on while I'm doing an effect here. So, oh, by the way, the other thing I want to tell you about is this dry and wet here, so you can kind of turn these effects up if you wanted to as well. So say there's phaser on there now, if I hold this down, with it completely dry, nothing will happen. But if I turn that wet effect up while I'm holding it down, it will introduce the sound.
Y'all ready for this?
And did you see that snap? It just snapped back to where it needed to be. I didn't like to go like that, turn it down quickly. You can just snap it on and off. So, super cool, absolutely love that. And look guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there because I feel like everything else is pretty standard stuff here. That is my review of these decks. Really cool decks. Here's my conclusion for you. If you've never had any DJ decks before, either one of these is a really cool deck. It will do you well. You will have them for ages. They're sturdy. It's going to take you a while before you're like, I need to upgrade these decks. So these are perfect entry-level decks. Some really nice features. Love these things here. Absolutely love that. Love the tempo sliders there. Performance pads feel sturdy and like they don't have that clicky sound to them. And it has absolutely everything you would need to go out and put together an insane DJ set. any pro DJ or amateur DJ could go into a club and rock the house with a pair of these. And that's all you need to know. Now, just in case you guys are brand new to DJing and you're like, well, you've just got these decks and I want to learn and I want to kind of accelerate my journey so you can get to the point where you're making amazing DJ sets rather than just learning, go and check out beginnerdjlessons.com. I've got some free training there right now for beginner DJs, but I've got 3 courses, a beginner, intermediate and advanced. All these techniques that you would need to put together an insane DJ set are taught in these classes, which means you can skip the learning phase and get into the fun stuff, which is putting together incredible DJ sets. Just in case you're interested in wanting to learn how to make your own remixes, mashups, make your own tracks from scratch so you can really accelerate your DJ career and actually become an artist making your own tracks like the DJs you love, go and check out edmcoaching.com. Currently got some free training going on there over the next couple of days. Both links to EDM coaching and beginner DJ lessons are below this video. Finally, if you like this video and you want to see more awesome tutorials on DJing and making music and anything kind of electronic music based, make sure you subscribe to this channel by hitting this button here. Hit that little bell notification as well so you get told when I release new videos. Hit that button right down there if you want to go and check out beginnerdjlessons.com, and why not hit this button below to go and check out a DJ set I did on these exact DJ decks. See you in next week's video. Ciao for now.